she's an army vet, Michelle Keegan's character. And
veteran, not like she doesn't like.
She doesn't look after the horses.
She doesn't repair the injured horses in the army.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Just clarifying for everybody at home, Baz. My message to gamers who are getting angsty at the fact that the TV show didn't reflect accurately what happened in the game is both were fucking made up. So chill out.
Oh, you're going to get hate here. People who play games don't think the world's like you think it is.
Well, maybe they need to start doing that. There was points on that where I was thinking, I've never taken hallucinogenic drugs. And watching bits of that movie, I was like, well, that's why. My reviews of all these movies, Baz, are never going to be too highbrow for anyone. Yeah. I'm bringing it down to a level where anyone can understand what I'm talking about. If you are of a nervous disposition and you don't like blood, maybe you watch Barbie.
Yes.
It's not a spoiler to say there's no blood scenes in Barbie. Hello, and welcome to the inaugural, mildly controversial podcast, TV and Movie Awards of the Year.
Brilliant.
Hey! No one's going to know because I'm going to edit it out, but it took me so long to get that out. I don't know why. I probably should have written it down, but I didn't. Anyway.
I was holding my breath as well then.
Anyway, by calling it inaugural, that implies that there is going to be an annual thing from now on.
Yes.
Hopefully, unless this one's shit, then it will be.
Yes.
So that's the idea.
Yeah.
What we're doing tonight is we're going to go through the Best TV of the Year awards, the Worst TV of the Year awards. I've got a special Best TV moment I want to mention. And then we'll go into Best Movies and Worst Movie. And at the end, we'll try to get to a unanimous decision between the two of us on what is officially the Best TV of 2023 and the Best Movie of 2023. Okay?
Yeah, perfect. Love it.
So I'm taking the lead on TV because I watch a lot of box sets. I don't watch a lot of movies. Now, if you are a regular listener, you will know that I don't watch movies. And we established in the last episode that I've been to the cinema twice in 2 years, and it was to see Elf in December in 2022 and 2023. So
I love the fact you say I don't watch movies, but you have actually watched, I don't know, a movie, haven't you, at least?
Yeah, I've watched that movie a lot. So yeah, I've only been to the cinema twice. So Baz is the expert on movies. I'm more not an expert, but I have much more to bring to this on TVs and box sets and that kind of thing. But I have watched 6 movies in 4 days in preparation for this.
Oh my God, that's I don't watch movies now. I'm sick of them.
Yes. Oh mate, this is it now. If we do this again next year, I will literally just do the same again.
I'll send you recommendations throughout the year. Actually, yeah.
yeah. That's a better way of doing it. If you watch a good movie, go, this is decent, watch it. Yeah. Then I won't have to watch 6 movies in 4 days ahead of next year's edition of this. So, as you can see, Baz and I see, most people listen to this, not watch it. So,
well, no, as you can see, you're allowed to do that one.
You could,
yes.
As you can see if you're watching us on Facebook, as you could see if you're listening to us on the audio podcast. But Baz and I have made a bit of an effort. So, Baz is tossing his massive beard back, so you can see that he's wearing a bow tie with a lovely red waistcoat, and he's got a black background with a black shirt and a black bow tie. So it just looks like Baz has got no arms tonight. There we go. He's got his magic tattooed hands out. Whereas I am in a really glamorous location. As yet unspecified, because I've got a green screen behind me. I didn't mean to put a green screen up. It's just that when I decided to wear a black jacket, black tie, and so on, I put the black background behind me and it disappeared, which is what's happened to Baz. Yes. So at least one of us, and if we both disappeared, it'd just be like floating heads. So I decided to put something behind that wasn't black, and the only thing I could find was chroma green. So as you can see, it's a very glamorous location of Hollywood.
I was going to say, so this is the beauty of this, isn't it? So you could just add anything you want to that.
I am actually in Hollywood, Baz. Look, you can see it clearly. Although a lot of people won't recognise this as Hollywood because this is Hollywood, County Down in Ireland, and now it's the actual Hollywood in America. There you go.
So 6 movies, a whole lot of research in a television program, and you've gone to Hollywood. No one can doubt your effort on this, Mike.
Exactly. I've worked really, really hard on this. Let's start straight in with the best TV of the year. Now, I've got 4 nominations for this. I haven't consulted with Baz because I've kind of taken the lead on the TV because I watch much more of it than I do movies.
And I didn't read the notes.
Yes, and Baz was supposed to come along with some best TV, but didn't. So, very much different to the amount of preparation I put into it.
Yes. Yeah, none versus all of it, in fact. Yes.
See, I was trying to make up a little bit of lost ground by watching 6 movies in 4 days. Baz forgot to even write down a list. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm working with here. Okay, so I'll go through them one by one.
Yes, do that.
Okay. So the first one I'm going to talk about is quite a recent one, and I know you've watched it, which is Fool Me Once. This is one of the things I enjoyed most this year, despite the fact I thought there was quite a lot of plot holes in it.
Yeah. It's like a sieve, really, wasn't it?
Yes, there were plenty of plot holes, and things didn't get explained that should have been explained, and there were bits in the story that just didn't make any sense.
Yes.
But overall, it had Michelle Keegan in it.
So it had a quite compelling story.
Yeah, it was a good show. It was a good
yeah.
show. Can you do a synopsis without dropping the big plot spoiler?
Yeah, because you can get to the point before the plot spoiler, can't you?
Go ahead.
So I'd say it's the story about. So you don't. The story begins. It's one of those ones that goes backwards and forwards. She's an army vet, Michelle Keegan's character, and
veteran, not like she doesn't like.
She doesn't look after the horses.
She doesn't repair the injured horses in the army.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Just clarifying for everybody at home, Baz.
Yes. So it cuts to like a scene of her crouching down over her who you soon find out husband in a park. You don't know quite what's happened in the first place, but it transpires he's been shot, and it sort of reels back to a point in her time when she was in the Middle East somewhere.
Yeah, she was in a war in the British Army,
and
somewhere.
she was involved in what would appear to be a contentious kind of episode that happened over there. So that's her backstory. But it turns out that like her husband has been shot, and she's sort of investigating like what happened to him. And then obviously there's some of the characters are quite flawed. There's a kind of dying policeman with his gay sidekick, and there's also her former army buddies who are like helping her sort of solve the case. And there's also her husband's nefarious family who are like massive corporate monsters, aren't they?
Yes.
So it all brings in, and she's trying to find out what happened to her husband.
Everybody's throughout it. Everyone's trying to figure out what happened. What the circumstances of his death and her sister's death?
Oh, sorry, yeah, sister as well.
Which is linked and all that. So that's probably as much as we can say.
Yes.
Without dropping any plot spoilers in there.
Well, she does find out, which is like at the end. So it's not one of those ones where you don't find out.
Exactly. Yes. We do find out. Loose ends get tan. If anything, I'm not going to ruin it, but if anything, like we were moaning in the last episode. We don't like it when movies and TV shows finish too soon and leave you with loads of... If anything, this went on 5 minutes too long.
Yeah.
You know the bit I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
The last if you watched it, the last 5 minutes was fucking pointless and should never have happened.
Well, I don't understand what it was in there for.
No, and left me a little bit annoyed because it didn't add anything to anything. No. So I was just like, why have you done that? That's just... so it was like a 10 years later thing.
Yeah, it was just bizarre.
But none of the actors looked any older, apart from the fact that they'd flour combed through their hair to make them a bit greyer. So it was a terrible, terrible ending. But definitely worth watching, I think.
Yeah.
I've just remembered something, Baz.
Yeah.
That I forgot to mention when we were when we've spoken about this before. I don't think we've spoken about this actually, which is weird because we've spoken about Fool Me Once on a number of occasions, but I can't believe I haven't mentioned this. At one point, she goes to a kind of a retro arcade.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's the gym I used to work at.
Oh, okay.
In Bury.
Oh, right.
So I was like, I know where that is.
That's quite cool.
So I was very excited about that. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's quite a lot of shows. In fact, there's another Harlan Coben one with Jimmy Nesbitt in it. Molly was watching it the other day and I walked in and I was like, that's in Bury as well. So apparently Harlan Coben just loves Bury.
Yeah. There might be sort of cheap studios there. That's why he does it.
No, it's all the outdoor stuff. It's mad. Anyway, okay, so that's one. That would be a recommendation if people haven't seen it.
Yes.
I don't know if you're listening in the States how you would dig that out. I think it's what was it? Was it a BBC one? Was it BBC? I can't remember. Anyway,
yeah, maybe.
We should probably research that, shouldn't we? Never mind. Google it. Right. Yes. Next one. Next one is one that is definitely. In fact, it's an American one.
Okay.
And it's The Last of Us.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So, that I'm pretty sure was 2023, wasn't it? I didn't check, but it was definitely wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that was one of those ones that like had a huge amount of hype, and it was that is a show which originated as a game.
You mentioned it. I went and looked for it, and then I realised it was from a game adaptation. So
yeah,
which is always a bit sketchy. So you know.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I'm not into kind of zombie type movies or anything like that. But I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was really, really good. As somebody who doesn't watch movies very often, I'd never seen the lead guy, but apparently he's
Pedro
like
Pascal.
Yes. Yeah, apparently he's a famous actor, isn't he? Pedro Pascal.
Yes, he's a very, very nice man.
Yes, well, I wasn't suggesting anything otherwise, Baz.
Oh no, you know what those actor types are like.
yeah, actors, yeah,
drug taking people that they are.
And also, the lead girl is English.
Bella Ramsey, yes.
That was one of those where we talk about this. How long does it take for you to Google something or use your phone? I Googled how old she was because I was like, I've no idea if she's 13 or 27.
Yeah.
She's got one of those faces. Do you know what I mean?
Which, so one of the other facts is they were both in Game of Thrones, but not in the same storyline.
Right.
She inherited a clan after her father died, so she had a very big part in it as well as.
Right.
And he was only in it, I think, for 2 episodes or 1 episode.
Having never seen Game of Thrones, I can imagine loads of people who are into Games of Thrones will be like, I'm so jealous that you live about an hour away from where most of it was all those bits were filmed.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You're not, are you?
Nah, it's not for me.
But let's face it, you could go to lots of places in Ireland where brilliant stuff's been filmed, and you'd be
Star Wars was filmed just up the road.
Yeah. But it's literally, so much stuff's filmed in Ireland, and and I think a lot of it's because you're quite guaranteed to get a day when no one walks on set. It's just walking the dog by because there's no fucker out there. I can imagine some producers going, "Get me somewhere green." We'll go to Ireland then, sir. Yeah, it'd be wonderful. Yes. Yeah,
I didn't mention that, did I?
No.
I didn't mention that. I pointed at that because it's green behind me because actually we'll do a bit and I'll put it in at the start.
Yes.
I need to mention how we like. Right, we'll do that now.
Okay. Then we must get back to...
Magic. The Last of Us.
The Last of Us, that's the one.
Yeah.
So long ago, I forgot it.
Yeah. Right, okay. I don't know why we're whispering. It's not like people can hear. That we're about to record something now that we forgot to put at the start. So we'll record that now, cut it out of this bit, put it at the start, no one will know any difference. And again, I don't know why I'm whispering, because nobody who's going to listen to the podcast is here to be able to see.
I need to unslump myself as well, because I was a bit taller when we first got here.
Okay. I love your work on continuity anyway. So this next bit's going to be at the start, so you're not going to see it or hear it. So we'll carry on talking about The Last of Us next. Right, so we're back. Baz, that was seamless.
Yes.
We've recorded a bit in between the bit when I said we're going away and this bit where we've come back. But I'm going to put that in at the start, and you'll never guess where it is because I've got such magic editing hands, you won't even notice it until you get to this point. And then you'll rewind and go, right, which bit did he shoehorn in because he forgot to do it with the first time
When
round?
you realise it's nearly all of it, in fact. So.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, The Last of Us.
Yes. Hey.
I really enjoyed. Like I say, I'm not into zombie stuff, so I was a bit kind of like, is this going to be for me? But I found it gripping, and I found it was. I think it was one of those where they only released one a week, isn't it?
Yes.
They didn't let you binge the whole thing.
Yeah, correct.
And so at the time, I was fucking furious at the end of each one because I wanted to watch the next one immediately because that's what that's what we've all turned into these
like
days.
the old days, as we refer
Yeah,
to it.
but now it's like you're gonna have to wait a week, and I hated it and loved it in equal measure. That's what they made us do.
Yeah, but it's like for you and I, it's really only quite a recent thing in the last 5 years, really, that like stuff gets released all in one go. Even
Everything
BBC
gets
do it
dropped
now.
at once.
Whereas
Yeah.
you and I grew up with going, I won't be able to watch next week, so I'll have to video record it.
Yeah, or before you had a video, it was like I'm just going to have to ask someone at school.
Yeah, exactly.
What happened? Because I'm going to be at swimming practice. I'm not going to be able to see it.
Yeah, all my family are watching something they want, and we only got one telly, so I can't watch it on my own.
Right, we should move on from just being like
Mars.
we slumped back into miserable old fuckers saying, "Wasn't it great in the old days?"
It's an easy fit for me. I'm not going to lie.
It is, yeah.
Like, so you wouldn't have watched The Walking Dead or any of those other sort of
No.
apocalyptic zombie things.
No, none, not into movies. The only zombie stuff I've watched is Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, so that's a really good one, to be fair.
Which is fucking tremendous, by the way. That is not a movie that was released in 2023.
Yes.
But it's a fucking brilliant movie, and the whole of the Cornetto trilogy are incredible. So go and watch them all.
So I am a quite an ardent zombie of all sorts, watcher.
Right.
So so this was a bit of a surprise when it came out because I'd watched all of The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead and all the other Walking Dead things that came out and all the movies and various things that came out. So
sorry to interrupt, Baz.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that you were saying the name of something there when you said Fear of the Walking Dead.
Fear the Walking Dead is.
I just thought you had said like I'd seen The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead.
Yes.
I was like, are you that traumatised from watching The Walking Dead? You actually fear that zombies are amongst
I've
us?
watched too much of it. It's literally, I believe it's real now.
Sorry, go. So
No.
as somebody who's a big fan of the zombie genre,
Yeah.
what was your take on The Last of Us?
I went into it not knowing anything about the game, and I really enjoyed it. For me, it wasn't over as there wasn't a million zombies like there were in the movie, World War Z or whatever it's called, or Z as we would say properly. And then
Thanks for clarifying. Thanks for correcting.
well, I didn't want you
yourself,
sort of glaring at me through the screen.
Well, yeah, you didn't want me editing that out and just putting a big Z over the top of it.
So there wasn't as many zombies in it. Obviously, there was a fair quota, but obviously the stories and the game were about the relationship between the main characters, one of who is a grown man, and then kind of like him having to escort this young girl through this sort of zombie apocalypse to get her to somewhere. I can't quite remember, but she's some kind of genius, right?
No, it's because she had a mutation,
That's it, yes.
her blood could be the key
That's
to
it, yeah.
To an antidote.
There you go.
So she was like precious cargo.
Yeah.
And it was I thought it was a great show, and I really enjoyed it.
Can I just say though that like I've spoken at length though to someone who was a massive fan of the game before there was an adaptation into the program, and he was saying that there's a massive kind of fallout between gamers because some people are saying, well, look, they didn't do it exactly like the game is, and then there's other people going, well, yeah, but it's an adaptation. Because so one of the standard episodes is the one about the two gay men.
Yes,
so that actually happens in the game, but obviously it's
that's
just
kind of a standalone episode, isn't it?
Yeah, so
it's quite different to all the others.
Yeah, so that does because those are characters that he knows, or the main character knows, but in the game it actually they are characters, and that is part of the storyline. but they're saying that the extension of that as it goes on to when they were older wasn't sort of part of the game. I might be wrong on this, but this is what I'm saying. So a lot of people are kind of going, oh yeah, but you'd also have a load of people going, oh, it's so fucking woke. Why would you? People
my message to gamers who are getting angsty at the fact that the TV show didn't reflect accurately what happened in the game is both were fucking made up, so chill out.
Yeah.
It's, you know what I mean? It didn't happen.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you know what I mean? If one of them's slightly different to the other, just chill out, mate. All right. It's not real. None of it actually happened.
People who play games don't think the world's like you think it is.
Well, maybe they need to start doing that. Right. Okay. So the next one, Baz.
Yes.
That I'm nominating for Best TV of the Year was a BBC, I think, was Happy Valley.
Oh, yes.
Happy Valley is Happy Valley tells the story of a close to retirement, cynical policewoman.
Yes,
and all the things that happen in her life. The main crux of the story is that a daughter took her own life, and she blames a guy she was involved with at the time.
Yeah.
And a kid came from this. One side thinks it's a relationship, the other side thinks it was not consensual.
Yes.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of caused fractious relationships in her family because some people see this child as just kind of a reminder of what the girl went through and why she took her own life, and so on and so on. So the character of the father of this child resurfaces and things like that. So it's all about that. And the interesting thing about this, Baz, I heard this was coming out and heard it was going to be brilliant. So I went back and watched the first two series first.
Yes.
It's the third series, and there was a 6 or 8 year gap in between season 2 and season 3.
Yeah.
See, I've mixed from calling it series to season for our transatlantic audience. Yeah. It's a series. Do you know the reason why there was an 8 year gap between season 2 and season 3?
I don't. I think I recall hearing, but you remind me.
It's because when it was written, the kid needed to be a certain age because of what happens in terms of the relationship between him and his dad.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. So so it was written with the kid as a certain age. The TV company or the writers or whatever wanted to use the same actor.
Yeah.
For the kid. And because there was 8 years difference in time between the second one and the third one as it was written, they had to wait 8 years for the kid to grow up and be the right age.
That's proper continuity, isn't it?
That is brilliant, isn't it?
His name is Rhys Connor, by the way, the actor.
And do you know what? Yeah. When I found that out, I was like, why? Because in the first two, I think his acting lets it. I mean, he's a young kid, right? So I'm not going to be too harsh, but I think his acting in the first two really lets it down.
Yeah.
So I only mentioned that, not to slag him off, but only mentioned that to say it really surprised me when I found out they waited for him to get old enough to do the next one instead of just going, fuck it, we'll do it next year, make all the adults look a little bit older and cast him as a different actor. So I think it was a brilliant thing that they did was to wait for this kid to get old enough to do it.
Yeah, I was just checking that the director or the writer weren't a Mr. Connor and that wasn't their son, so it's not. Yeah,
so there you go. So I think it was a brilliant show, and I loved the fact that there was a load of hype about it. So I went back and watched the first two.
Well, look,
so it was like this is coming out, and I ended up watching 3 series of something.
So here's my admission: is the reason why I only saw series 3. I saw Sarah Lancashire had been in this program called Happy Valley. I assumed it was a comedy.
Oh, right.
So it went past me. I just assumed it was some kind of, what was the other police that Nick Berry was in?
Heartbeat.
Yeah, so I figured.
It does sound a bit like it.
It never crossed my mind. So Sarah Lancashire, it's set in like a sort of kind of northern Yorkshire, Lancashire type area, because it never specifies really, does it? And then and then Happy Valley, I thought that's probably maybe I'll just give it a miss. So I never even crossed my mind. And then when it came on and there was a bit of hype, I thought, I'll go and watch the first episode. And the first episode of Series 3, it's proper fucking straight goes in hard hitting, isn't it?
There's a lot of brutal stuff goes on in that show.
And I was like, oh, God, I can't believe I missed out on all this. So, yeah.
And look, on all of these, I mean, it's much easier to give a little synopsis of a film.
Yes.
But obviously, it's difficult for us to talk about all the different plot lines and storylines and things that are that are involved in these, because they're like 8 or 10 hours long.
Yeah.
And there's loads of intertwined stories going on and different characters getting up to different things, and it is a really, really good show. And if I think it is available in the States.
Yes.
If you look at Happy Valley, because there is like BBC stuff. If not, I'm sure there'll be somewhere you can stream it on the Dodge. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's worth noting as well that like both Sarah Lancashire and James Norton, who play, I think it's Tommy, isn't it?
Yes.
Those two actors, like particularly Sarah Lancashire, because she was from a long-running TV program called Coronation Street. I don't know why I put that accent on.
I enjoyed it though, man.
So she was in that, and I think she played Raquel, and she was.
She did.
She obviously had storylines like people did, but she was generally quite a sort of.
She was quite ditzy, wasn't she?
Yeah, and so most of her stories were quite, funny. And then James Norton also played a vicar in, something recently, and and good acting props to him, because in this, like, he was proper fucking evil, wasn't he?
Yes, and he was brilliant.
Yeah, and she's
brilliant.
She's
actor.
hard as fucking nails as well. So there's no denying that they both sort of came together and it worked out well. But that was what threw me as well. Just she mainly was the reason that I never really dived into series 1 and 2, because I was like, it's going to be like Heartbeat, isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
So I was wrong. No, cool. So it's a really, really good choice, that one, Mike.
Right. Well, let's move on then, Baz.
Yes.
To the worst TV. I'm not going to go through 4 nominations for this because I can't be asked.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go straight in with one, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? The worst TV show of 2023, in my opinion, could be seen as mildly controversial.
Yeah.
Because there are fuckloads of people who think it's incredible.
Okay.
And admittedly, I only jumped in at this point, and there's been loads of series before it. And I have mentioned this on the Facebook page before as well.
Yes.
The worst TV show of 2023 for me was Succession.
Okay, interesting.
We went back to the start, right? Because we heard that this is good. So we went back to the start, hoping to catch up, and then watch the last one. So when I say the worst thing of 2023, the one I watched wasn't from 2023, but the whole hype of it was.
Yes.
So I'm shoehorning it in.
Yeah.
The problem I had with it, Baz, is that I knew that it was really, really good, and loads of people said it was brilliant, and this new final season was coming or whatever. Yeah. So we went back to try and get into it, and we did. Do you know what? We gave it a real good go.
Yep.
We watched 5 episodes, I think, maybe 6.
Yep.
And I just couldn't get there. It's to me, it was the whole premise of it. I believe is that it's who is going to inherit the company.
I believe it is.
All the cash and all the, everything that comes with it. And it's like, it introduces loads of members of the family, and it's like, are they going to inherit it? Are they going to inherit it? And in the end, I didn't like any of the characters. And I get that you're not supposed to like them because they're all horrible bastards.
Yeah.
But by not liking them, I didn't give a shit who inherited it.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the premise, and the whole point of the show is who's gonna inherit it, who's gonna carry it on, who's gonna lead the company, who's gonna take this legacy and and move it on and things. And I didn't care. And like I say, it was after about 3, I was like, I'm gonna fucking pot this. And I think we did another 2 or 3 after that, and I was just like, I'm not into it.
You have to give it a go, didn't you?
I did. I gave it far too much of a go.
The thing I liked about it, because I only caught a couple of episodes and watched them through, was the fact that Ferris Bueller's best mate's in it. Yes, because he's one of those people that whenever I see him in anything, I'm like, I can't take him seriously.
No, that's it.
I just can't do it. And he plays a serious character in this, doesn't he?
Yeah, he didn't kick any Ferraris, which was a bit disappointing.
He didn't put them on bricks and tried to wind them backwards. So.
No.
And if you don't know what that's about, folks, go and watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
There you go. So, Baz, what's your
My worst program.
worst TV show of 2023?
Well, so I was checking this. So I want to give a shout out to something that's back on this year, and I swore blind it was last year, but it wasn't. So I'm kind of doing a thing that bridged the gap, if you can allow me, because I think if we're talking about really bad television programs, I can't help but mention it.
I'll allow it, Baz.
Okay, thank you. It's the premise and the cast and everything should make it a thing, because it's written by Jed Mercurio, who wrote In the Line of Duty, right? Line of Duty.
Yeah.
So it should be brilliant, because it's awful. It's called Trigger Point. It's the fucking worst program I've ever seen in my entire life. So I watched 3 or 4 episodes of the first series and said, like you said, I potted it off because I just couldn't. It was driving me mad. And then
is that the one with Vicky McClure?
Oh, and I love her because she's done so much good stuff. So I thought it's got to be good, right? And then I watched the first episode of the start of this new series. Oh God, it's the fucking worst thing ever. It's like someone's written a police program for like a 9-year-old child, and everything about it is like that. It's just so bad. It's just ridiculous.
So what in particular about the first series was it that you didn't like?
So it's kind of like all the stuff is in there. You know, they're chasing someone who's planting bombs.
Yeah,
and everything in it is just a sort of like a pastiche or a thing where, like, you know, the classic, do I cut the red or the blue wire? Every single thing they encounter is of that ilk, where it's fucking obvious what's going to happen, but it's just really poorly executed. It's like literally, if you wrote a load of stuff, how can I make it really stupid? And actually shoehorn pointless bits into it and drama that doesn't need to be there. It's fucking awful. That's the biggest rant I've had about any program ever in the world.
It really is. And do you know what, Baz? Here comes a bombshell.
Yes.
I really enjoyed the first series.
Oh my God. I just couldn't. Everything about it was like, you know when Adrian Lesser's at the start of her boss, and the big bomb goes off. He had loads of time. They all had time to get out of the way, but they're too busy going, oh no, I think I've set a bomb off. Have you? Oh no, I need to tell you something about yourself before the bomb goes off. Read a book. I just couldn't believe it.
Do you know what, Baz? I love this. I love the fact that we've disagreed on this, because in 3 years of doing a podcast together, and 2 years or whatever it is of doing mildly controversial podcasts, we agree on almost everything.
Oh yeah.
So I quite like the fact that we've disagreed on something that we're not going to argue or fall out about, but it's nice to have. It's actually nice to disagree about something. I quite like that. I'm really looking forward to the new season.
Well, I feel I must have.
Sorry, series. It's a British show.
I feel I've either missed something, or I've just immediately gone in with the point where I've just said, it needs to be Line of Duty, and there needs to be no things in it. Yeah.
Do you know what, Baz, though? I think you might have explained it, though. You said it's like a police show for a 9-year-old. Maybe my TV watching is I watch TV with a 9-year-old brain and just enjoy stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's what it is.
Well, like you say, this is the reason why we have these conversations about, like, do you like stuff? It's like, it's not just taste. It's that thing, isn't it? It's like, no, it is taste. It literally is. When we go through my movie list later, there's a huge gap in taste in there. So,
well, do you know what? And then when we do go through the movie later, the movie stuff later, it highlighted something to me, that because I don't watch many movies, there are things that I'll talk about through the movies that I watched on your recommendation. Yeah. There are things that I recognised as, I'm only thinking like this because I don't watch movies very often.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like, I don't read books very often either. So it's a bit like, if I sat down to read a book, I would probably lose concentration at points and go through like 3 pages and go, fuck, I don't remember anything from those 3. I don't get engaged by a book or anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is a skill that the more you read a book, the more you can skim read but take loads in. It is a skill. And I know this sounds stupid, but from watching the films that I've watched over the last 4 days, I think there is a skill even to watching a movie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where sometimes you need to know when to suspend disbelief. sometimes you need to know when you kind of accept that stuff's going to happen because it'll get better in the end. I think instead of going, oh, this is shit, after or I don't like this bit, or I don't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you're watching a movie, you just need to go, just let it go.
Yeah.
And judge it at the end. Do you know what I mean? So
I sometimes wonder as well as if your expectation for it to be really good based on something else, and it's just not as good as the thing that you were preparing yourself for. Which maybe is the other thing.
we'll come to that later.
Yeah.
We'll come to that later because I do have a really interesting point on that. Okay, to box off TV, there is one very brief TV moment I want to nominate as the best TV moment of 2023.
Go on.
It was in the Squid Game challenge. It was my highlight of all the TV of all of 2023 was when Eric Roberts, who lives down the road, he went to congratulate somebody for being picked to do something, who then had an opportunity to save somebody else. He went up to kind of congratulate him and also say, please pick me. And he put his arm up to tap him on the back. The guy walked off, and he was just left hanging.
It's like the biggest hang ever, wasn't it?
It's just it was so funny. Because I kind of knew the writing was on the wall at that stage, but that Eric wouldn't stay in it much longer. But it was just the funniest thing. It was cringy, but also really, really funny at the same time. Yeah. So that was my highlight of 2023 TV. Right, movies, Baz.
Okay,
Let's move
cool.
on to movies. So, as explained earlier, this is Baz's area of expertise. But so I'll explain what happened a week or so ago in terms of giving me my brief for this week. Baz has nominated his top 3 movies of 2023. Understandably and obviously, I hadn't seen any of them, so I had to watch them this week. He also gave me his worst movie of the year.
Yeah.
And I also took on a couple that he didn't ask me to watch, but I also watched the 2 biggest movies of 2023, which were Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Yeah.
So I think we'll start there, Baz.
Yes.
We'll start with Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Go on then.
Okay, so Oppenheimer.
Can I just mention the first obvious thing?
Yeah.
You're still alive. I mean, that's long enough for you to live your whole life in, right? it's huge, isn't it?
Some people are going to be confused if they're watching as well because I've watched an awful lot of films and I may have shorter hair and shorter beard than the last time they saw me. It should have been the other way around. My beard should have been much, much longer and my hair's all over the place like I've been found on a desert island because I've watched so many movies in the past few days. But yeah, Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer's a very, very long movie.
Yeah.
And loads of people have warned me it was really long. I think it's 3 hours and 2 seconds.
Okay, yeah.
Oppenheimer, I just thought it was a brilliant film.
Yeah.
Really good. I was kind of engaged through a lot of it. I think one of the things that, again, as a movie watching novice, there was a few times I struggled at times to figure out where I was in time.
Yes.
Because they did try and help me by putting a load of it by putting one chunk of time in black and white.
Yes.
So they had it was pretty much 3 chunks of time, wasn't it? And I couldn't really work out where they were at some times.
Yes.
But yeah, one stage of time was in black and white to kind of help people. Yeah. But they needed a third one. They needed to put one in yellow or something because there was 2 bits in colour that I didn't understand where we were. It was a really good. I didn't know anything about the story. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was gripping. It was terrifying. It was interesting to see the different characters and things like that. So I'm aware that I'm fucking rubbish at movie reviews, by the way.
Well, no, you said everything that you like about it. That's a fucking good review, to be fair.
But yeah. But I really did like it. And I kind of Googled stuff at the end. One thing that came from it is he's chatting to Einstein. And I don't know why, but in my head, Einstein's about fucking 200 years ago.
Yeah.
he's not just before the Second World War. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's bizarre, isn't it? That's the weird thing about it.
It's nuts. I'm just like, well, that's actual Einstein.
Yeah.
Because in my head, I've only ever seen Einstein in black and white, so I just assumed he was like 1800.
Well, that's why they put it in black and white for you.
Exactly. Yeah. But no. I thought it was a really, really good movie, and I was going into it with a fair amount of trepidation that I'm going to have to dig through 3 hours of a movie about nuclear bombs and the Second World War.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it didn't feel, for me, it didn't feel like 3 hours.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I didn't look at my phone very often, and I was I checked the time every so often because I was watching it during the day and I had to pick the kids up from school at some point. I was like, you were just trying to explain. I didn't pick you up because, I don't know if you noticed, but like we're in a race here against the Russians. And
it's a really long movie, and I'd see it to the end.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? I couldn't just come now. Well, I need to find out if America are going to beat Russia and Germany in a race to throw a nuclear bomb somewhere. You know what I mean? I can't just come pick you up from school. It's trivial after that.
Yeah, I like when you got to pick up Shane and you suddenly realised he was 18. You've been so long watching the movies.
See, I got to pick him up from school and it's just a wasteland.
Yeah.
Of like white dust. I'm too late.
So it's weird. I was a bit I was a bit not nervous. That thing about I wasn't sure about like how I was going to get on with it because it's a serious subject. It's a big film. It's everything about it is sort of staring down the Oscar route, isn't it? So you know it's going to have loads of stuff. And Christopher Nolan's not known for making short movies and on sort of epic stuff. But yeah, I think the way it was done because the story itself is it's a serious subject.
Absolutely.
From the beginning, you realise there weren't
moral dilemma.
Yeah, there weren't going to be that many laughs in it, was there?
No.
And there was the odd bit, like when they were getting ready for the bomb and and they're getting ready to build it all. There's that stuff of kind of how blasé they were about. They were just about to set off a nuclear device.
Yeah.
And then also that sort of stuff of like when someone would come in and they would be a little bit further ahead, and there's all that jealousy about like who came up with this then? Oh well, the other team did. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and it's just really really interesting. Like they built a town in the middle of fucking nowhere because it had to be done in secret.
Yeah, Nuketown, yeah,
and all that, and then moved into a house and there was no kitchen in it.
Yeah, but there's also the whole sort of trial at the end of him like. So what they're trying to do is kick him off the program, weren't they? Basically,
yeah.
And they, it was like a trial in an office where he sat, listened to people like either shitting on him or bigging him up, and it was like that's bizarre. And all the people that he'd done all this work for were literally going, we want to. You're a commie. We want you out of here. It was during that period, wasn't it? And then bringing in every little connection he had with anybody, like his brother and like his former lover who had sort of connection with the Communist Party, which so many famous people did in that period of time in America anyway.
Yeah,
yeah, and it's just got to go. You've just done possibly invented the most amazing thing, even though it ended up being quite a sort of disastrous thing that he'd done.
But I think that's a really important point about the movie was that he knew, like he had a fear all the way through the development of it that this could potentially end the world.
Yeah. Well,
but if he doesn't do it, then somebody more evil could do it.
This
do you know what I mean?
This is the funny thing when they were about to do the first test, and they said, "Well, it could actually evaporate the whole world if we get this wrong.
It could ignite the atmosphere."
And they were like,
"What?
Like literally, we could set this off now, and that'd be the end of everything, possibly the whole universe as well, because we don't know what it's going to do. It could just kill everything."
I did like the celebrations after the successful test. I was like, that's more than just saying, yeah, it works. I was like, yay, the world still exists.
but imagine there was a point at which they genuinely didn't know, once they sort of set this thing off, that they could have destroyed the entire planet Earth.
Yeah, they kept saying, what are the chances of that happening? Close to zero. Close to zero. Everyone who heard the phrase close to zero went, close to zero? So not actually zero. Yeah. Nope.
But yeah,
it might do.
You can see how it was definitely an Oscars movie because it just had all the elements in there, like the big performances, the big sets, everything about it was huge, wasn't it?
Cillian Murphy was incredible. By
Yeah, I was trying to find. I couldn't remember how his Peaky Blinders accent went, so I had to go and find a video because I was like, "That's not the same bloke. He can't be doing that."
Well, I mean, I presume that I've not seen Peaky Blinders, but I presume in Peaky Blinders he had a Birmingham accent.
Yeah.
In this one, he had an American accent. He's Irish. So.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. But it's mad. It's mad that like he's gone from that to that. So,
but also in this, he had to play himself. You know, a number of different stages of his life.
Yes,
and I think they did that really, really well. It genuinely looked like the same man. 20, 30, 40 years apart in time. Very, very good movie, and I really enjoyed it. So that's Oppenheimer.
Yep.
Barbie.
Go on then.
Barbie.
Do you want me to go first on Barbie? Because I think
go on, you go. Yeah, you go first on Barbie. That's a good idea.
So I was pleasantly surprised because I didn't really know. I hadn't read anything about it. I obviously knew that it had some, big Hollywood people in it, and so I didn't know the whole thing about it. About how the plot went of them stepping, out of Barbie Land, and we're going to ruin the film anyway because you can't talk about it, and stepping into reality. I didn't know that was part of the plot.
I don't think that is ruining it.
Yeah.
I think that's.
Well, yeah, I suppose you read it, but I didn't even realise that was part of the plot. I didn't.
Right.
I didn't realise that. And I'd seen lots of talk about it being woke and blah 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 blah, and that doesn't bother me because I generally watch anything. But I quite liked the fact that they managed to eke sort of a fairly good performance out of people based on the premise of the storyline. Because ostensibly it's a you could say it's a sci-fi film or a fantasy film or whatever. I mean, there was clearly a message in there about how Barbie, when it first came out, should have been an empowering toy, and and it did for many. It was the first sort of doll that wasn't a baby doll for people.
That wasn't a baby that didn't force young children to pretend to be at-home mums.
Yes, so I get all that, and I tend to, when I watch movies anyway, I tend to sort of like deliberately try to enjoy it. And that's why when I get something I don't like, I've tried to enjoy even the things I hate. This is what I'm saying to you. But I deliberately try to enjoy it. I thought for me it was. I went to the cinema to see it anyway, so it was slightly different. And there's less chances for you to get distracted in cinemas anyway. So that's why people always say you should go and watch movies in cinemas, isn't it? But I can't say anything like bad about it. I can't also like get to the point of going, for me it was the best movie of the year. Like a lot of people had. A lot of people I know went to see that on a Saturday and Oppenheimer on the Sunday and said it was the best movie weekend ever because that was end to end of kind of the movie spectrum and all things thrown together.
You can't get further apart in terms of style of movie and not gravitas, but importance.
No, I think
of
gravitas
message.
is definitely the word on there.
Yeah.
So for me, I personally tried to like it. I enjoyed it. Not the best movie I've ever seen, and it's largely forgettable for me as well. So I liked it. It was all right.
Yeah. Well, for me, the first 10 minutes or whatever, it was all in Barbie Land. I almost turned it off because I was like, fucking hell, if this is the whole movie like this.
Yeah. So this is what took me, yeah. There you go.
Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't understand. It's not spoiling the movie if you haven't seen it to say that. It starts in Barbie Land where everything's perfect. All the Barbies live in Barbie Land. And then one of the Barbies goes into the real world, experiences the real world.
But does she do something first, which is non-Barbie-like in Barbie Land, and she begins to change, doesn't she?
She begins to change because of something that's happening in the real world, which means she has to go into the real world to find out why it's affected her in Barbie Land. Yes. That's not spoiled anything for anyone. Yeah. But there are messages in there and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm surprised Mattel gave it the okay, which they must have done, because quite a lot of times Mattel gets slated for like Barbie just basically just being this thing that like over sexualizes stuff and gives like eating disorder, like encourages eating disorder and all that. They get absolutely slated throughout.
Yeah, but I guess though that they would look back and go, well, that was never our intention. Do you know what I mean? So I'm pretty sure.
I know, but like for them to rubber stamp something that basically slags off their product, I thought was quite surprising. But anyway, back to the movie. Like I said, for the first 10 minutes, for me was a combination of if it stays like this, I'm fucking turning it off. And secondly, being very distracted because Margot Robbie as Barbie looks incredibly like my daughter Charlotte.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So and I just couldn't. I couldn't stop. I kept taking pictures of the screen, going, "Fucking hell," and like sending it to her. So I don't know if anyone's told you that, but
Yes.
you look like Margot Robbie. She obviously took it as a massive compliment when I sent it to her. But I showed Shay a picture of a still I'd taken of the screen, and said, "Do you think that looks like Charlotte?" He went, "It is, isn't it?"
Oh, right, there you go.
And it wasn't.
Yeah,
it was his sister. I don't know. He thought it was his sister, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was Margot Robbie. Particularly the bit when she goes and talks to Weird Barbie.
Yes.
And you won't remember it, but she was wearing I don't remember it because I watched it today.
Yeah.
Yesterday. She wears she's just wearing a blue outfit with a white collar, and she's just got slight bangs, which my daughter's got a fringe, to translate it back into English. So yeah, I was really distracted at the start, just thinking she looks so much like my eldest daughter. But thankfully, yeah, it did turn into something more than just the whole kind of moving around. It was like a real life cartoon. The live action version of a cartoon, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
In the first 10, 15 minutes. And thankfully it moved on, and there was a story to it, and there was a bit of a plot eventually. And it wasn't a bad movie.
You could see why it got. You could see why it got made, and particularly with the people.
I can see why it got made. I think it's overhyped. But maybe I've watched it with the hype first. Is a kind of. But I mean, it was difficult to watch that. I don't think anybody watched it before the hype. There was so much hype around it. But yeah, it wasn't 2 wasted hours of my life. But it's not even one of my favourite movies I've watched this week, Baz.
There you go.
Which by default is one. It means it's not one of my favourite movies of 2023.
Yeah, no, but I think as well. Also, they were the 2 biggest kind of talked about films in 2023, and I think the fact they came out at the same weekend and they were sort of both, fairly diverse opposite ends of the movie going scale. And but also one of the things I did like about Barbie is because I didn't know where it was going. I too was thinking, oh, is it just like 2 hours of them in Barbie Land with some funny stuff
is
going?
Is it going to be this?
Is it like the Flintstone movie or something like that, where it's just the whole? But yeah, so the fact they break out and then she realizes that the real world, is nothing like her world, and
Do you know there's because there's Helen Mirren does narration throughout, but there was one bit I thought was incredible. And again, this isn't going to spoil anything for somebody who hasn't watched it, but there's a moment where Barbie is supposed to look awful, and she says, "I don't look pretty anymore." And Helen Mirren in the voiceover goes, "It's at this point we need to point out casting Margot Robbie was a mistake because it completely, basically she was just saying, it was a mistake. It doesn't make the point.
Yes.
Because when she's trying to look ugly, she's still beautiful." So, which I thought was quite funny. But there is one bit, and by the way, there's Will Ferrell's in it, and I love Will Ferrell. Plays a great character. Plays Will Ferrell basically, but plays most of Will Ferrell's characters.
He's kind of like Mattel's CEO, isn't he? In it,
yeah. But he plays it like he plays most of his characters, by the way. But no, I thought it was brilliant. But there is one thing that, as I was watching it, I was thinking this, and look, I'm not blowing my own trumpet, right? But I think I could have improved that movie.
Go on.
Right? There was one moment where he went in to tell Will Ferrell's character that Barbie had gone from Barbie Land into the real world.
Yep.
And he said, "Don't come too close to it." He said, "Send me an email." He said, "Oh, but I need to tell you right now." He said, and he goes, "Can I do it via whispers?" And he went, "Oh, okay." So he whispered it, and then around the board table there was men whispering it one to another, one to another, one to another, one to another, until it got round to Will Ferrell. And I thought the joke was going to be that it had gone through that process and it was going to be nothing like what the guy had said in the first place. But it wasn't. It got to him and he was like, "Oh no, Barbie's..." the real message would have got through. So it would have been so easy to throw a line in there when he gone, what? What do you mean there's a catfish stuck to the ceiling? That's the first thing I thought of. But do you know what I mean? It would have been so easy to put something like that in because it's been gone through a series of whispers. But yeah, that was it. Anyway, so I think my summary of Barbie is I found it was okay. It wasn't a waste of 2 hours of my life.
Correct, yeah.
It was weird as fuck at points.
Yep.
There was points in that where I was thinking, I've never taken hallucinogenic drugs. And watching bits of that movie, I was like, well, that's why. Do you know what I mean? I'm glad I haven't, because that's why. Because life would be like that.
Yeah, even their journey from Barbie Land to the real world was kind of like through a whole sort of excursion of Barbie toys, weren't they?
Yeah. So, there was good bits, there was bad bits. I think without the hype, I think the marketers have done a brilliant job on that movie because I think without the hype, I think that might have just gone under the radar.
Yeah, but I think having Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling like as early doors marketing all around them was the first thing that was going to get people there because they was like, well, it can't be a shit movie with both those two in it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Saying that, it's the first movie, unsurprisingly, Baz, it's the first movie I've seen of Margot. First I've heard of Margot Robbie. So that shows my experience in movies, ladies and gentlemen. That's the first time I've ever even heard of Margot Robbie. Oh my God,
she's like literally in everything. Like there are very few movies made that she's not in at the minute as well. So.
Yeah, but if you don't watch movies, you don't see that.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. No, I really enjoy that thing where you go, I've never heard of Margot Robbie. Like, so my temptation would be for most people to go, what? But then I realise it's you. So yeah, that's pretty normal. There's nothing weird about that.
Let's see next year's in the 2020 in the awards for 2024 movies.
Yep.
Maybe I will be more knowledgeable. I'll know more about how to watch a movie. I'll know more actors stroke actresses and have more to bring to this conversation. But I am literally in this as it's like someone who's never watched a movie before in their life.
Yeah.
I'm that inexperienced, and it's like, this is what I thought.
This is why this conversation was always going to be so good. Because the thing is, it's one of those things, it's like, I like the thing is, you're expressing it, though, in terms of people, in the way that people talk about movies, because... they're not real, which is always that first thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, do you know what? My reviews of all these movies, Baz, are never going to be too highbrow for anyone.
Yeah.
I'm bringing it down to a level where anyone can understand what I'm talking about. I'm not going to start talking about narrative or like cinematography and all that. I might actually later on one of the ones I'm talking about before, but only because I've recently learnt what that word means.
Yes.
But anyway. So all right, so that's Oppenheimer and Barbie, but they weren't in your top three, Baz. So Baz, talk us through the first one in your top three that you gave to me to watch this week.
Well, I'd like to do them in order that I watched them, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And I want to preface all of this by first saying that if I could only watch one type of movie ever again, it would basically be an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from off of the 80s and like the late 80s. Because I do. Liz always describes, like, she always say, does someone's head explode, or do they, is someone getting blown up by a mortar or a bazooka? That's basically the kind of, that's the synopsis of the film that I would watch most. Because I just like I love an action movie.
Okay.
And I love a movie that like has lots of action in it.
Yep.
So that I want to preface that first. So I'm going to talk about Sisu first.
Okay.
Because it's an interesting one because it doesn't star. There's only one. No, there's two recognised actors in it that if you've ever seen movies before that you may have seen them, and the first one isn't. So the star of the movie isn't a Hollywood actor. He's basically, I think he's Finnish or he's he's definitely Scandinavian anyway.
Yeah.
And I should imagine his first language isn't English. So it's tantamount to being a foreign film, and it's filmed and acted in English. It's basically a Second World War movie in Finland, where the Nazis are in charge at the minute, and they come across a guy who is a gold prospector. So they try to steal his gold, and they find out to their cost that he appears to have been in what was equivalent of the Finnish SAS.
Yes.
And then the rest of the movie is him getting his goal back.
Yes.
So there isn't much. There's not a lot of dialogue in it, and there's not a lot of story. I think it delves into kind of a bit of his past, of of what he may not have done. But it's basically a single guy annihilating what would probably be the best part of a large section of Nazis. But it's weird because
which I don't mind saying. The mildly controversial podcast back that kind of behaviour.
Yeah. No, I liked it because I thought it was comical, and I like a lot of the fact that people obviously went, what can we put in it that would be bizarre ways of people dying for a start, and brutal as well.
Yeah.
So it's never going to be up there as a sort of a highbrow film, but I just found it really entertaining. Over to you.
This is one of those things, when I said I need to learn how to watch films.
Yeah.
This is a film where I wish I'd gone into it with the mindset of just suspend disbelief and just enjoy it.
Oh, yes.
Because there's a number of things going on, because it was kind of like, it is quite graphic. There are quite graphic, violent scenes in it. But if anybody's seen Inglourious Basterds,
yes, there you go.
It's a similar sort of thing, and I was constantly reminded of that because of the Nazi situation, but also it was the violence was Tarantino-esque.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point.
Where it was graphic, but it was almost comic book.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was over the top in parts, and there was things where, again, I'm not going to ruin the film by saying that you do need to suspend disbelief, because I'll give you one example, right? It won't ruin the movie, but at one point there is a man on a tank firing a machine gun. One of those machine guns you have to sit on. That's how big the fucking thing is, yeah? And he's firing against this guy, and he shields himself with a corpse over his shoulders.
That's it, yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that's the sort of thing that you just have to stop yourself going, as fucking if.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You've got to stop yourself saying that a few times.
Comic book is definitely the way forward, yeah.
It is, isn't it? It's like real life. It's a real life comic book violence, but and like I say, it's very similar to. It reminded me of the kind of style of Inglourious Basterds a lot, and a lot of what Tarantino does in terms of some of the things. Like one example is in Pulp Fiction, when I won't ruin Pulp Fiction if you haven't seen it, but
if you haven't seen it by now, where the fuck have you been?
Yeah, exactly. Why have you not? But the scene where Marvin's life is ended.
Yes,
remember that?
Yeah.
So that's enough. People who've seen the film know what I'm talking about now. That is brutally graphic, but also comedic at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's what Sisu was really, really good at. The violence is both like graphic and brutal, but also comedic.
Yeah, it's over the top of it, yeah.
Yeah, it is. And going back to what you were saying before about there's not much dialogue and this guy English might not be his first language. He only speaks one line in the movie. That's right at the end, and it's in Finnish.
Oh, right, yes. Okay.
So there's a good chance that the guy that English isn't the guy's first language.
One of the things that I liked about it as well was that obviously it was very anti-Nazi. There's no denying that. To the point that it also had that kind of, the kind of almost over the top dictator leader. When he's when they're out, he's in the lake, and they keep sending people out in a boat to go and get him. And every time the boat comes back, and there's nobody in it, and they keep saying, "You go now."
You go now. There was like, don't want to. Yeah, there was a lot of that. It was like sending minions to do his dirty work who he knew that would be killed.
So actually, the reason I probably liked it was the same reason that you were saying about having. I'm quite used to suspending disbelief, and also it doesn't take a lot of thinking about. So yeah.
I really, really enjoyed it, and it is a very, very good film. And yes, go and watch Sisu, because it's not a film I'd even heard of.
Yeah.
So maybe people listening or watching won't have heard of it, but do go and watch it. If you are of a nervous disposition and you don't like blood, maybe you watch Barbie.
Yes.
It's not a spoiler to say there's no blood scenes in Barbie.
Right. I am going to speak next about Tetris.
This is an Apple original film,
Yes.
isn't it? It's a movie made by Apple.
Yeah, and it's literally about the game Tetris. And
Yes.
I knew nothing about it. We've spoken about things before where you go, oh, Tetris. So I watched the trailer, but it didn't really sort of explain too much about it. It just said this guy had seen, this game at some kind of convention, and then found out about it and realised it wasn't licensed, and then decided he had to go and find the person who invented it, and then he realises that the guy that invented it, or that owns the rights to it, is in Russia.
Yes.
And it's partly sort of the end of the Cold War, so it must be
70s, it was
80s.
in the USSR days.
Yeah. So he decides, because he's a bit of a salesman, a bit of a kind of failed entrepreneur as such, but he decides to go and see the guy, and then realises there is literally a mountain of red tape to get over this. And so while he's investigating it, the Russian authorities suddenly realise, oh, well, there's something here. So they tried to kibosh his attempts at signing this at every sort of juncture. And he actually goes to Russia to sign this guy up and grease people's palms and, do deals with people. But obviously they must realise at some point, we don't want to be part of the tyrannical USA capitalism, and also there's money here, and and the best thing I liked about this is I knew nothing of this, because why would you? You just assume it was written by a guy that someone put it on a computer game. I think it was, I can't remember what the platform was, but it was
Nintendo.
There you go, it's the early Nintendo, and obviously that was the biggest game in the world ever at that point, and still is. But yeah, it's just I thought it was one of those things. It's like when you see it, you go, this can't be true. And it is one where you Google it, you kind of go, fuck, all of this actually did happen.
I love, by the way, just to interject, I love the fact that you're asking, you're trying to like thinking about, I'll just like clarify my memory of this, and I look really fucking good because you're talking about a movie you watched last year. Yeah. I watched it yesterday or the day before.
Yes.
So that's why I can remember so much.
Yeah, no.
Since watching the movie, I've Googled kind of how much of this is true, or how true to life is this. Yeah. And apart from the car chase at the end.
Yes, which is good.
Which is brilliant. But apart from that jeopardy of the car chase and the fact that in the movie he's flying to and from country to country, and it was just basically he flew to Russia.
Yeah.
All that shit was going on, but he was in Russia when it all was going on. I think that because ultimately the guy who invented it in the first place, and this guy who, like you say, was a kind of a failed entrepreneur, but like put everything on the line, like remortgaged his house and all that kind of shit. They own the Tetris company now, and it's the most successful game of all time.
Yeah.
So they've both become fabulously wealthy from it. So that's not spoiling the movie. Do you know what I mean? That's real life. That's what actually happened. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great. It was a great movie. It was a kind of going into it, I was just like, how interesting could a film about fucking Tetris be? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I watched it because it was on Apple. I thought, I've got nothing to do. I'll watch it.
Yeah, but I thought it was really, really good. Really interesting that was the story, because obviously you got Robert Maxwell in there as well.
Yeah.
Who is trying to counterbid for the rights.
Oh shit! Yeah, I forgot about that. Yes, they try to steal off him, don't they?
So he's counterbidding. You've got people who are like going behind other people's backs and like proposing deals behind other people's backs. And for people in the UK, they'll remember that this is the time when Robert Maxwell was basically about to become declared bankrupt because he'd spunked away all the pension money from all these companies, and he, on paper was a billionaire, but he had no cash at all. And ultimately, if he had been successful and he'd have signed the deal, and again, I'm not spoiling anything because people know that he didn't.
Yeah, it's a real life thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. If he had have done, that would have solved all the problems.
Yeah.
And that's why he was so keen to sign it, because he knew it was going to be big. Whereas he ended up, he died in mysterious circumstances on a boat, off a boat.
Fell off the side.
Yes. off a boat more accurately than on a boat. It was his death. But yeah, in suspicious circumstances.
Well, they had to put the body somewhere, didn't they?
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, all of this stuff. But I had no idea that he was friends with Gorbachev and all this. So really, really interesting. Because much as I didn't know anything of the story of Tetris, it had bits of stuff I remember from when I was a kid interwoven in with it. Like, Gorbachev and Robert Maxwell and real people I'd actually heard of,
Yeah.
And obviously knew what Tetris was. So look, I mean, both Sisu and Tetris, I was delighted that you'd highlighted them to me, and I watched and enjoyed them.
I want to talk about the third one because I've also seen it in the cinema, and I think as well, like, the best place to see films is in the cinema. There's no denying it. There's some films that I wouldn't bother with, but I think some things that are going to look better on a big screen, like you should go to the cinema. So I once again I didn't know too much about Wonka. I've seen. I want to talk about Timothée Chalamet first. Is
he the guy who played
Wonka?
Who
played Wonka. He's a big thing at the minute. He's been in loads of stuff. I just want to sort of give out a recommendation. If he's in anything, I think it's worth watching because I've watched Dune recently. I saw him in a thing called The King, and like for someone who's so young, like he's the guy's a proper. He can act. So I think going into Wonka, I thought it was good. I'd also seen the Johnny Depp version of Willy Wonka the Chocolate Factory, which was a couple of years ago. Which I liked as well, but this is a different. They call it a reimagination, don't they? So it's basically it's the story of Willy Wonka as a young man.
So it's almost like a prequel, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit, but
it's like what happened. How did he become a
chocolatier? Or Willy Wonka. Yeah. So basically, but it comes from a slightly different angle. It's a bit more fantastic, and it explains his journey beforehand. And then obviously he gets to a town, and all he wants to do is make chocolate because there's a story about his mother, who who made him a chocolate, which he keeps. And so basically it's another fantasy tale. There's a bit of magic involved, and he turns up in this town, and then like there's three chocolate makers there already who are classic Disney villains, for want of a better term.
Yes,
and they just want rid of him, and so they corrupt a cop in the town. And they tried to get rid of him, and then he ends up being kind of, what's the word? Like, there's a word for it where he ends up getting like chain gang or press gang or thrown into like this poorhouse where he owes them a debt. So he has to. So it's basically like a sort of like a prison, and he has to work it off. And he meets in there a few other people that have been done the same way. They form a gang, and then they kind of like make a chocolate shop, don't they? I thought the whole production and everything was brilliant. I mean, I think it's one of the best films I saw last year, purely in terms of I love going like a cinema experience. So it doesn't necessarily have to change my world and enlighten me to anything, but it's something that's like entertained me for the entire movie. There wasn't a bit where I kind of went, oh, I'm bored of this now. So you had the highs and the lows and the villains and the good guys and the happiness and the sadness. And so it's one of those things that I think for me it was a movie that just had everything in it, which keeps you entertained for probably the best part of 2 hours as well. You didn't see it at the cinema, did you?
No, I didn't see it at the cinema. I saw it in my front room during the day.
Yes. Can I ask, do you have a big screen TV?
Yes.
Like big
70 odd.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's close.
Yeah. It's like a cinema.
Yeah.
I just don't have to pay.
Yes.
70 odd inches it is. So yeah, it was. It's big screen, just not cinema screen.
Yeah.
Now, with Wonka, I think if people haven't seen it, I think I'd be doing them a favour to tell them that it's kind of. It feels like a theatre show in a movie, if you know what I mean.
Very fair.
Because there's lots of kind of ensemble singing things going on and that. And
I forgot it was a musical. That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, for me, this is one that when I said I need to learn how to watch movies.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. I kept going like, it just felt really. I was kind of getting in my own way of enjoying it at points because I was just like, this is one I watched with Emma, and I just kept looking over and just going, what's going on here? It's a bit weird, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Instead of just enjoying it and park all that stuff till the end, and if you still feel like that, then fair enough. So, like I say, I just need to relearn how to watch movies. Because I was, and you know, when I kind of post-rationalised it, I was like, I love the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, the Gene Wilder version.
Yeah,
it's up there, isn't it? It's just,
and that's the same thing. That's the same thing. It's like if you go like, that's fucking ridiculous. That'd never happen. And why have they started singing and all that kind of stuff that was going on in my head?
I actually forgot that was a musical as well.
Yeah, well, do you know what I mean? Yes. When and all of that stuff that was going on in my head watching this version, I was like, you love that version.
Isn't that weird? I'd forgotten that as well.
I didn't even think where it's going to be like, if I'd known to walk in with eyes looking for a movie that is in the same kind of style as a movie I fucking love, which is Charlie and the Chocolate
They even
Factory.
have the song at the end, don't they? I forgot about that.
Yeah, the Pure Imagination.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and it's just so I kind of I think this was the first one I watched.
Yeah.
So this is like literally kind of me new to watching movies, really.
Yeah.
So I think I got in my own way of enjoying it. In the end, I thought it's a decent film.
Yeah.
Quite enjoyed it. I could feel myself stopping myself enjoying it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like going, oh fucking hell, why have they all started singing?
It becomes tedious.
I know what a movie. I know what a musical is, right? Don't put in the comments section. It's a musical. Let me talk you through what a fucking musical is. Right? I know what it is, but it was just. Do you know what? I love musicals that have got songs at points in. Well, I have a problem with musicals where in the middle of a conversation they break out into song.
Yes,
do you know what I mean? There's a difference there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like Grease is a musical, but it's fucking brilliant because there's very clear kind of, we've stopped talking now, we're going to do a song. Yeah? So I think that may be part of it. But I did enjoy it. But do you know what? I really did enjoy two characters in that, or two actors in that, that I think were fucking brilliant. The partnership between Olivia Colman and Tom Davis.
Tom Davis is brilliant anyway.
He is incredible. But the things that I've seen Tom Davis in, because he's a huge guy, he's always kind of like, sometimes he's a bumbling idiot and that, but he's always like this kind of, this big Larry guy. But he's just, that character is just like, the two of them, the characters those two have, and the way they play off each other, Olivia Colman and Tom Davis. I think that those two were my favourite characters in the film. To be honest.
Yeah. Well,
I just thought they were brilliant.
I think we should say that anyway. It's like you can watch Olivia Colman play anybody.
Yeah,
and she's brilliant. But I've seen an interview by her, and quite often, I think I said to you before, she goes into a job knowing the bit she's got to do without any concern for the overarching thing that she's in. Because sometimes like she'll do these press interviews where they go, so the film, and she goes, I've no idea what the film's about. I just did my bit. They said to me, you're playing this character, you're doing this. I did that bit. They were happy, so I went.
That's it. I did enjoy the movie. Out of those three, the three you said were your three favourite movies of 2023. Out of the three, Sisu, Tetris, and Wonka, it's the one I enjoyed the least.
Yeah.
I think would be fair to say.
Yeah, I watched it before Christmas as well, so I think there might be a little bit of that sort of like to sort of add to it as well.
We'll come back to the best movies because we're going to pick our favourite. We're going to pick the best TV and the best movie. Yeah. Okay. But before we do that, you highlighted to me your worst movie of 2023. I didn't watch all of it, and that's not because I turned it off because I thought it was shit. Yeah. It's because I ran out of time because I was watching it this afternoon. So I've watched half of it. I watched the first half. Okay. So tell us what it is, brief synopsis, and why you thought it was so bad.
Okay, look, I'll be really quick because I think I said to you I briefly told you why I disliked it because basically I had massive expectations of this. Like we've spoken about like films before, and I think Even when we had Ollie on, we spoke about our favourite Star Wars film, and mine was Rogue One. So it's same director as Rogue One. He's done a Godzilla film, so he's used to really big films. The director and the writer. So I thought this is going to be brilliant, and once again, huge hype around it. Anyway, so it's called The Creator. Basically, the synopsis is that we take AI to the point that it becomes, self-aware, a bit like the Terminator films. So it creates the whole thing, and then it doesn't quite go to the end of where it starts blowing up the world, but they start taking over. So there becomes a point in history where the humans start destroying AI to the point that they start chasing around and destroying it wherever it is. So in the background, there's this kind of one AI creator, and basically all the humans are after it. The world's now been sort of subdivided into Asia, which I guess is mainly China, and then the rest of the world.
New Asia.
New Asia, yeah.
New Asia. They covered their arse by calling it New Asia.
So it's basically China without any other sort of description. And then the rest of it is like America and England or Great Britain as that kind of force. So anyway, there's a guy in a relationship. He's undercover. He's trying to bust this ring open. It all gets wrong. They all disappear. So the love of his life disappears. And then you kind of find out she was pregnant at the time. And then later on, he has to sort of go in to find this weapon. I think it's a weapon, they think it is. Turns out to be a little girl. And that's where it just gets ridiculous because, the whole point of the AI thing is they were supposed to be like humanoids. So why on earth would they invent straight away the weapon that's going to be there that they have these sort of hollow-headed humanoid, half-human robotic thing.
I quite like
that.
No,
because visually it's superb, but there was no need to. So if the idea is they were trying to infiltrate humans, why don't they do what they had with some of these other robots and make them look completely like human? Why do they have this sort of hollow, make them look like robots? That was purely just sort of for film, because the thing about The Creator is it's beautifully shot. It's visually, it's one of the most stunning things you'll ever see.
It looks incredible.
Yeah, the AI, the actual CGI is so realistic. It's just virtually you can't see it. But the script I felt was written by ChatGPT. It was just kind of write me a story about AI, and they went, oh yeah, and it wrote a 5 million word script. So the worst bit is they send these fucking tanks. This was the bit that destroyed the whole movie for me. So when they go into New Asia to sort of find the weapon and kill all these other AI units and robots, they send these giant tanks in. They were so big, they were the size of fucking football stadiums. And they take one down with a fucking EMP landmine, but they can't. They've only got one, so they can't destroy the other three of these things. These things are so big. It's kind of what's the point? It doesn't make any difference that you'd visually have something the size of a town to go in and destroy these people in the village. It just got really ridiculous. There were so many pointless things they put into it to make it look beautiful. Everything about it was stunning, except the script looked like they got halfway through and, should we go and have a beer? And then they finished it after they'd been to the pub for 12 hours. Just ruined it for me.
I looked at the IMDb. This is the only one I looked at the IMDb reviews.
Yeah.
Before I watched it, and it gets slated, and people saying the same thing as you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is cinematically beautiful.
Oh God, yeah,
incredible.
I'd watch it without
effects.
the sound on again.
Yeah, what incredible special effects, visually an incredible movie, but plot fuck all, acting shy, and that's what they keep saying. But I think it's really interesting that, on one hand, I'm trying to think I need to go into watching movies by suspending disbelief and things like that so I can enjoy them more. And you're saying the same thing. But then on the other hand, the TV show and the movie that you said you didn't enjoy, it's because of plot hole, or it's because of, that had never happened. It's because of not suspending disbelief. And I'm not criticising, I'm just saying it's a really, really interesting. There must be something. There must be something about the bits you didn't like in that TV show and that that movie. I think we disagree on this one as well because I've only watched the first half of it, and I will watch the second half. So it shows that I don't think it's as bad as you did. Yeah. Because having watched the first half in preparation to record this, I don't need to watch the second half, but I will.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So
you need to know what happens at the end, don't you?
Well, if I thought it was really shit, I wouldn't bother. I wouldn't care. But I do want to watch the second half of it because I was watching it. I'm just thinking. You mentioned before that you thought I might not enjoy some of the movies you said are the 3 best because I'm going in thinking these are really good and I might be let down by it.
Yeah.
I wonder if the reverse has happened with the creator.
Yeah.
So you've said this is shit.
Yeah.
I've gone in and gone, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I wonder if the reverse has happened because certainly with Wonka, I've gone in thinking, I'm watching that, I'm just thinking, fucking hell, how bad were the films in 2023 if this is one of the best? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas with this one, I've gone, it's not as bad as he said.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think it illustrates that there are, whether there's a load of hype around a movie or whether you get a recommendation from someone or whatever, you go into watching a movie with preconceptions.
Yes. Yeah.
Of whether it's going to be good or whether it's going to be bad. And I think that if you just said, watch the creator and let me know what you think, I might have gone, it was shit.
Yeah.
But because you said, watch that, it's oh, you didn't say watch that, but I said, I'll watch it because, it's the one you said was shit. I've watched it and gone, I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah.
And I think it's the flip side of what's happened with like Barbie and Wonka because they were okay, but I've come out of both of them going, it's not as good as like Wonka. I've gone, God, that can't be one of the best movies of 2023.
Yeah.
And Barbie, I've gone, what the fuck was all the hype about?
I think it's just poor writing in cases, and obviously sometimes as well. Like, so go back to Happy Valley.
Yeah,
love them or hate them, but you really get invested in the characters.
Yeah.
In the creator, just couldn't. All the characters were just like bland, irritating. Apart from the general that's trying to wipe them out, and even she was like bad. And she's a great actress, and she was like over the top. And I think I get the same at Trigger Point. They're just kind of like, there's nobody in that I particularly think is a good character, and you just want them all to die. Whereas,
like me with Succession.
Yeah. See, there you go. Because like you kind of hate everybody in that, so you kind of go, it doesn't. Yeah, I think that's the difference. I think like you watch. I like the drama in some stuff, and other times I just like the very fact that like there's so many good characters. One of my favourite films of all time is Black Hawk Down. I've no idea why, and I watch it over and over and over again. But I just love the fact there's 25 characters in there that I really like. And I want to watch them do something different in it every time.
This might shock you, Baz, but I've never seen that.
Well, look, if you ever get a chance, like, I'm
going to write it down, Baz. I'm going to write it down as my on my first one. It's not going to be relevant for the 2024 awards.
Yes.
But I'm going to write it down and I'm going to watch that at some point in the next couple of weeks.
Anyway, I think we've pretty much fucking got really serious into films. We never got mildly controversial at all about from Nazis and suicide.
Sometimes we don't have to, Baz. Do you know what I mean? Right. So all we've got to do now, Baz, is we need to decide officially the best TV show and the best movie of 2023. Now, start with the best TV show. Let's rattle through this quickly. So the nominations are Fool Me Once, The Last of Us, and Happy Valley.
So you read them out in a really good order. So Fool Me Once, I was like, yeah, that's good. I liked it. And then when you got to The Last of Us, I was like, brilliant. But then you threw in the big heavyweight one at the last one, which is, for me, Happy Valley. Fucking absolutely loved it. And, it's one of those ones I'm going to go back and watch again. Just because it's like, Sarah Lancashire, for me, was always Raquel. And then she turns up in here and she's just like fucking smashes it. Like, makes me believe it and actually wants me to go with her to beat up Tommy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Brilliant.
Easily Happy Valley for me.
I'm all over that, Baz.
Yeah.
That is officially the best TV show from the Mildly Controversial Podcast. Official best TV show of 2023 is Happy Valley.
Yeah. So it's not a comedy, everybody. It's not.
No, it's not. It's a brilliant, brilliant show. And if you haven't seen it, go dig it out, go and find it, and go and watch it.
Yeah, watch it on an illegal hooky box.
Yeah, and she lives in Bury as well. So there you go. So shoehorned that one in.
Yes.
Okay, so down to movies then. So you've already brought it down to 3. So the nominations for the best movie of 2023 are Sisu, Wonka, and Tetris.
Well, look, so yeah, you actually highlighted a few things for me tonight, which is nice talking about it. The thing is, I clearly like a musical, which I didn't realise. But I am, when I saw it, I thought, even at the end of it, it made me so happy. It was a nice time. I'm sure that Wonka would have been it, but now we've spoken about it, I've just remembered how much I love Sisu. So I love the fact that you could watch that with the sound off, or just hear the banging and you wouldn't miss anything.
Yeah.
And the Nazis get fucked. So yeah, it's so yeah, Sisu for me.
So the order of those 3 for me is Sisu, Tetris, Wonka.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So there we go.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to jam in a little shout out for Top Gun Maverick as well, because I'd forgotten all about it, really.
As a good one?
Well, yeah, as a good one to go and watch if you get a chance.
Oh, okay. So there we have it.
It's a long one.
It was a long episode. We did a lot of discussion, but the benefit of all that discussion was that in lightning speed we came up with there was very little discussion around what was the best TV show of 2023 and the best movie of 2023. Yeah. And they are Happy Valley and Sisu. If you haven't seen Sisu and you haven't seen Happy Valley, go and watch it and put in the comments how incredible you think we are for highlighting both of those things.
Yes.
And adding such an incredible experience to your life.
Also,
and on that, Bob.
Sorry, I ruined it. I was going to say, literally, if you could shoehorn something about Sisu, that would be the most perfect on that bombshell, wouldn't it? Because that's nothing but on that bombshell.
Yeah, I just said, and
you scared me with that on that bombshell.
No, listen, I can't use this because it's a massive spoiler, but I'm doing this for your
thank you
appreciation. Right? So if you haven't seen Sisu and you want to know how he stands on that bombshell.
I'd use it, to be fair.
I can't, it's a massive spoiler. I'll just have to cut that bit out. I'll cut a little bit out.
It's such a shame because that just highlights how much we do this, not even for anybody else but you and I sometimes. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Right.
So many private jokes.
Look, I'll be able to edit something about that. Anyway, if you didn't know now, the podcast is nearly finished.
Yes.
If you're still listening now, then fair play to you. If you're still listening now, go to our Facebook page and put in the comments underneath this video.
Yeah.
I made it through to the end.
Yes.
That phrase, I made it through to the end, and we will give you a special prize.
Yes, Sue Warren, this is just for you.
Okay, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks, Baz, for introducing me to some movies.
Oh, thank you for watching them. That's the most amazing
and
thing
helping me relearn how to watch a movie. I think this will have to be an annual thing now. So thanks everyone for listening. Don't miss our next episode. We probably are just talking to Sue Warren at this point. She's the only one who's going to be watched or listened to this this extent. But anyway, Sue, don't miss our next episode, which is a Valentine's special. We have got to get our first guests of 2024.
Yes.
We have got a couple coming on who are quite new to their relationship and have gone viral for certain things. So that's all the clues I will give you. But because on a Valentine's special, me and Baz don't really like Valentine's Day. And it's been a long time since we met our respective wives. So we've had to drag some younguns in who are new into a relationship to have a chat about the difference between what happened when we started going out with our wives and what happens these days. So that is effectively what our Valentine's special is going to be about. So if you are still listening, thank you very much. Thanks for being charitable enough to listen to us two chonter on for this fucking amount of time, because we've been recording for 2 hours, 10 minutes. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to cut out of it as well, because it's in a big, long order, and it might not make sense if I cut chunks out of it. So Thankfully, I've got a decent amount of time to edit this one. But anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all your support. And we will see you next time on the Valentine's special.
Bye, Mike.